You're watching Meditations from Inside. Once again, here's Chaplain Kelly.
Thank you for joining me for this meditation class on Channel 60. For those of you who are taking this program for credit, please send me a special request or speak to me in person to get the module number 8 worksheet. In the last teaching, we continued to learn about our mind. We learned about its qualities and its functions. We discovered that the true nature of our mind is a vast, open, and peaceful space. And the purpose of our mind is to recognize and understand objects. We learned that when our mind sees, feels, tastes, or touches an object, that certain things happen in our mind. The first thing that happens in our mind is that our mind identifies it. Then our mind quickly determines whether this object is positive, negative, or neutral. Our mind then develops a thought and feeling about this object. And this all happens very quickly within our mind. From understanding how our mind functions, we can say with confidence that all happiness and suffering begin within our mind. I'm going to say that again. All happiness and suffering begin within our mind. Now, this is so different than how we usually think. We usually think that things external to us, people or objects, cause us to experience happiness or suffering. And so we spend a lot of time trying to control our external conditions. If we want to be happy and not experience suffering, we need to stop trying to control our outer conditions and instead can work at controlling our mind. In the last teaching, I used the phrase, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. What I meant by that is that if you change how you see people or objects, if you change how you discriminate people or objects, your experience of those people and objects will change. What does discriminate mean? That might be a new word for you. Discriminate means that how you see or interpret something. If you change how you see or interpret something, if you change how you discriminate it, it will change how you experience it. I'll give you an example. If someone on a living unit swears at me or treats me badly, and I discriminate him as negative, my mind will automatically develop negative thoughts and feelings about him, and this will cause me suffering. If, however, I see or discriminate him as neutral, I might then see him as a hurting person caught up in his delusions or what we call negative mental habits. Then I will have a different experience of him. Maybe I will actually experience compassion for this person. If I'm having a really good day, even though he swears or treats me badly, I may discriminate or actually see him in a positive way. How is it possible to see someone who swears at you and treats you badly in a positive way? Well, if I'm trying to practice patience, I may see him as a person who is helping me to practice patience. And if I do this, then I definitely won't experience suffering. In our meditation today, we're going to try and change the way we look at ourselves and others. The meditation is called the Faulty Person Meditation, or the saltwater meditation. Now, I don't know how you feel about yourself. Sometimes we may feel so faulty when we view our thoughts and behaviors. My teacher, in his book, 8 Steps to Happiness, challenges us if we view ourselves as faulty. He writes, although people's minds are filled with bad habits, people themselves are not faulty. He continues, We say that seawater is salty, but in fact it is the salt in the water that makes it salty and not the water itself. The real taste of water is not salty. Similarly, all the faults that we see in ourselves are actually faults of our delusions, our negative mental habits, and not ourself. And he doesn't say this, but we definitely can extend this, what he says to others, because similarly, all the faults that we see in others are actually the faults of their delusions or negative mental habits and not themselves. So let's check this out for a moment and see if what he's saying is true. So using his saltwater analogy, how much salt in the water is coming from the side of the salt? 100%. And how much salt in the water is coming from the side of the water? None. There's none coming from the side of the water. These two are appearing together. And when the water appears with salt, we experience salt water. With the salt, the water is not nearly as pleasant as clear, clean water. We need to apply this analogy to ourselves and others. A person is like the purest water, and the salt is just all of the negative habits that we and they have, every bit of it. We know that even a little bit of salt does to the water, it salts the whole thing up. If we ponder this analogy, we will start to understand how wrong we are about ourselves and others. We might think about ourselves that I'm just an anxious person, or I'm just an angry person. That's just the way I am. But the truth is that anxiety or anger are just appearing in the clear water of your mind. They are not you. Just as salt can be removed from water, so too all of our negative habits, our anxiety, our anger can be removed from us. So let's try this now in meditation. As we're getting into that comfortable position for meditation, we're just going to start this meditation by engaging in some preliminary breathing. So we're just going to turn our attention inward and just become aware of the natural rhythm of our breathing. We just begin to focus our attention on our breath and just watch as the air enters our body and just watch as the air leaves our body again. Just try and follow that process of breathing in and breathing out with your mind. Now we're going to focus our attention a little bit more closely or single pointedly on our breathing. As we focus single pointedly on our breathing, this just tells our body and our mind that we're wanting to relax. So as we breathe in, we mentally count to 4. And as we breathe out, we mentally count to 4. As we're breathing in and mentally counting to 4, we just have this image like we're filling up a balloon with air. We're just taking a nice deep breath. And as we breathe out and we're mentally counting to 4, we just very slowly start to release the air from the balloon. Again, just doing this is telling our nervous system that we're wanting to relax. So we're breathing in and mentally counting to 4, and we're breathing out and mentally counting to 4. Just continue in this way. As you continue to breathe and count in this way, you'll notice that your body and mind are starting to relax. Now that our body and mind are more relaxed, we're going to engage in our main meditation, this faulty person or this saltwater meditation. And I'm going to just begin by sharing again what my teacher wrote in his book, 8 Steps to Happiness, where he challenges us if we view ourselves or others as faulty. He writes, although people's minds are filled with bad habits, people themselves are not faulty. He continues, we say that the seawater is salty, but in fact it is the salt in the water that makes it salty and not the water itself. The real taste of water is not salty. Similarly, all the faults we see in ourselves are actually the faults of our delusions or our negative mental habits and not ourself. So in this meditation, the first step is to apply this analogy of the salt water to ourself. Try to distinguish your real self, your free self, yourself free from your negative states of mind. Remember, all the faults you see in yourself are actually just the fault of your negative mental habits and not yourself. So try to distinguish your real self, yourself free from your negative states of mind. This would be the water. Let's spend a couple of minutes just identifying that clear, fresh water appear from that is separate from our negative mental habits. So as we try to distinguish our real self, we understand that the salt is just all of our negative patterns of thought. the negative habits of thought, which are not us, which are not you. Mostly they're just habits that we don't even realize are negative or harmful. So as you just bring to mind all of your negative habits of thought, just remind yourself that those habits are not you. So now try to see yourself as you really are, your pure self, completely separate from the mental habits that harm you. If those negative mental habits or anxiety or anger, really try to separate yourself from these negative mental habits. Imagine what would it be like to really see yourself as you are, your pure self, completely separate from your anxiety or anger or other negative mental habits that are harming you. For the next couple of minutes, imagine just enjoying yourself, being free from all that negativity. Just enjoy how good it feels to just imagine yourself as you truly are, your pure water nature separate from the salt. Just notice if it helps you feel peaceful and relaxed. With this awareness of ourself and our true nature, we can now turn our attention to other people, because the same distinction that applies to us applies to them. And we need to train ourselves to make that distinction. So we're going to train right now with the people who are most important to us. So imagine a friend or a family member. Imagine that they are beside you or in front of you. We often see them as faulty, but we want to clearly distinguish between them and the faults that we are so familiar with. We may see them as self-centered or arrogant or angry, but now we want to see this person completely separate from the faults or the negative mental habits that are affecting them. So we make the same separation that we do for ourselves. The pure essential water nature that is that person that you're thinking about, and their salt, the habits that are affecting them. We want to try and distinguish between these two things completely and try to see their pure essential self very clearly. What would they look like if they were free from their negative mental habits? Free from the mental habits that are harming them. For the next couple of minutes, imagine what that would look like. From meditating in this way, we now understand that we need to completely distinguish between this person and the mental habits that are harming them. Remember, they are the first person to be harmed from their anger or other negative mental states. It's not them, it's the salt water. It's their enemy harming them. So there's no reason for us to develop a negative state of mind towards them. Instead, we want to generate compassion for that person, recognizing what they have to struggle with. For the last few minutes of the meditation, try to develop a strong, compassionate heart and a wish that this person would be completely released from their suffering. And now you can relax your concentration very gently at your own pace. When you're ready, open your eyes. So remember, the most important part of the meditation is not the meditation itself, but is the meditation break. Try to think about how you're going to bring the peace, calm, and relaxation that you experienced in this meditation into the rest of the day. And try to recognize and distinguish in the meditation break what is you and what is not you. And also, when you're dealing with others, try to recognize what is them and what is not them. Thank you again for joining me, and I wish you a very peaceful day.
If you enjoyed this class, why not attend a live meditation at the chapel? Submit your special request today.